Welcome everybody to this information session on this research project called Traveler Mental Wellness Continuum Framework, a cultural intervention model of mental well-being and suicide prevention for members of the traveling community in Ireland. My name is Jacopo Villani, and I work in the HSE as Mental Health Service Coordinator for Travelers. And in collaboration with my colleagues working in 7 CHO areas and the Offaly Traveler Movement and the Health Promotion Research Center in NUIG, we are going to implement this research project, which is funded by the National Office for Suicide Prevention. So I'm going to make a presentation. It's very, it's a short presentation. It's 10 slides, so it's going to last for about 10-15 minutes. And after that, I will open the floor for questions and answers. And so you can write your questions on the chat box, or you can also raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself and ask as many questions as you want. And my colleagues, HSC Mental Health Service Coordinator for Travelers, will support me in answering the question, as well as Margaret Barry from the Health Promotion Research Center in NUIG can also jump in, and Offaly Traveler Movement, any members of Offaly Traveler Movement can also reply to any question. So this research is a real research partnership. In fact, the funding comes from Sláintecare. So the funds are administered by the HSC National Office for Suicide Prevention. And there was a call back in October 2020 for research proposal on priority groups of Connecting for Life. And so ourselves, the Mental Health Service Coordinator for Travelers and the Health Promotion Research Center in NUIG and Offaly Traveler Movement, we wrote a proposal in a very short time frame, in around, we had a month time. And just recently, back in October 2021, we received confirmation from the NOSP that we were successful. So that's why we are, starting the implementation now. So we are at the very first step of this research project. And the Health Promotion Research Center in NUIG is going to provide the technical expertise for this research. So the expertise in data gathering and analysis. The network of HSC Mental Health Service Coordinator for Travelers working in 7 CHOs, we are responsible for the organization of the workshops, and we are the link with the traveling community and traveler groups. So we're also responsible for the recruitment of the sample. And the Offaly Traveler Movement, the traveler peer researchers that we are aiming to recruit, and the travelers participating in the research steering group will provide the cultural appropriateness of this study. So we want this study to be appropriate and adequate and relevant for travelers. So we are seeking a strong traveler participations in the steering group, and this steering group will decide every step that we are taking. So this will provide the cultural focus that is so important in this type of studies. And so the lead applicant and grant awardee for this research is Professor Margaret Barry, who is here with us today, and Dr. Tuli Koosmanen is also going to be working on this project as well. And the co-applicants is the 7 Mental Health Service Coordinator for Travelers, so myself, Jacopo Villani, Kira Ridge, Petra Daly, Peter O'Reilly, Mary Byrne, Ita Madden, Doreen Carpenter, and Sandra McDonough from the Offaly Traveler Movement. So these are the applicant and co-applicants of this research. And also we recently received the provisional approval from the NUI Galway Research Ethics Committee for this study. And just yesterday we sent the revised application. So we are confident that we're going to receive the final ethical approval from NUI Galway in the next few weeks. So this research is going to follow the best practice in terms of research ethics, in terms of ethics research principle, such as anonymity, confidentiality, and also we have several protocols in case people attending these workshops feel distress, or there is disclosure of abuse, or so we're going to follow all the best practice in terms of research ethics. So this is a great partnership, and So I want to speak just very briefly about the rationale behind this study. As you have seen at the beginning, the subtitle of this study is a cultural intervention model of mental well-being. So why do we talk about culture? We know from studies conducted in different countries, in Canada, for example, and Australia, that those communities, those indigenous communities who were able to preserve their culture and live like their culture dictates, and who were valued as a cultural group, they have better mental health outcomes and lower suicide rates compared to those indigenous communities who lost their culture and who were assimilated by the dominant population, dominant groups. And we believe there are some indication that makes us believe that this could be the case in Ireland for Irish travelers. In fact, in some focus groups that we conducted a few years ago, some of the travelers stated that the loss of their lifestyle, can be associated with poor mental health status and the mental health crisis affecting travelers. Therefore, we think the culture can be, a key factor, an important factor in the analysis of the suicide rate and mental health of travelers, and can have, an important role in informing future suicide prevention and mental health promotion strategies. And also, there is a lack of evidence of the meaning of culturally appropriate services from the traveler's perspective. So, we know that many organizations in Ireland, many traveler groups in Ireland have been very vocal in advocating for, the need and to create a culturally appropriate service. And also, there are scholars and papers written on this topic, but we don't know in practice what this means. So we want to hear from travelers about what a culturally appropriate mental health service would look like from their perspective. And we want to unpack the meaning of culturally appropriate service and understand what this means, so that, this suggestion can be incorporated in mainstream service provision. So that's the rationale. So the study aim is to create the research base for the development of a culturally sensitive continuum of mental wellness and suicide prevention for and by members of the Irish traveler community. So when we talk about a continuum of mental wellness, we are referring to all the topics, all the factors that are important for travelers' mental health. So we want to focus on the strength that exists already within the traveling community and try to capture travelers' ideas about what they have, their strength, and how can we promote positive mental health through those factors. And also we want to capture as well, the types of services that travelers feel they are necessary to be put in place, not only at community level, but also within mainstream health services. So it's a quite broad spectrum of services that can be, important to promote positive mental health, but also to reduce suicide. And more in specific, the objectives of this study is to explore the views of travelers on the strategies that are needed to support travelers' mental well-being and prevent suicide. As I said earlier, we would like to examine the meaning of culturally appropriate services for mental health and suicide prevention, and what a culturally appropriate service would look like from the perspective of travelers. And finally, identify the main changes that are needed to improve mental health services and community action for promoting mental health and well-being of travelers. So we want to identify the main requirements for this framework to promote mental well-being for travelers. So what are the most important factors that needs to be put in place to promote positive mental health? And when we wrote this proposal, we were inspired by this framework. It's called the Canadian First Nation Mental Wellness Continuum Framework. So this is a framework which was developed in Canada for the Indigenous community First Nations, which includes all the different aspects that are important for that community. And if you look in the outer circle, you can see here, you can see culture. So it includes the language, the practices, the ceremonies, the knowledge, the land, the values, but also, the respect for the elders, the cultural practitioners. So it is centered within, indigenous culture, and it respects the cultural knowledge and values of the Canadian First Nation. So and so there is a strong focus on culture, and it's also based, if you look at this in the the center, it's based on the four elements of the sense of purpose, of belonging, meaning, and hope. And also, of course, this includes also the social determinants of health. It includes housing, justice, land and resources, employment. So we would like to create a similar framework in the Irish context for Irish travelers, which includes all the factors that travelers believe are essential to maintain their well-being and to promote their mental well-being. And as I said earlier, we would like this research project to be co-produced with travelers, and that's why we're here today. So the aim of this information session is to create awareness about this study among traveler groups, among the traveler community. We would like to encourage travelers to come forward to participate in as research participant, but also to participate as peer researchers. So we are aiming to employ some traveler peer researchers. So they will be in charge of the data collection, and therefore they will provide, this cultural focus, which is so important. And also in the research steering groups, also, as I said earlier, we are seeking a strong traveler participation. So we have between 6 to 8 members of the community who is going to be part of this group, which also includes Professor Margaret Barry, Dr. Koos Mannen from the Health Promotion Research Center, Professor Ella Arensman as external advisor, who has a huge expertise in suicide, in research around suicide. Also, 3 mental health service coordinators for travelers will be part of this, and then reps from North and the HSC Health of Services. So it's we have but we want a strong traveler participation, and we want travelers to lead this process. And it would be great if one traveler could be chairing this steering group. And as I said earlier, every step that we want to take needs to be travelers proofed, and even the questionnaire that we are going to use during the workshops, every question that we are developing needs to be relevant for travelers. So we want travelers to review it and to approve it. So that's how we would like to build, this co-production and ownership, and we want travelers to own this research. The data collection, we are planning to conduct 16 interactive workshops facilitated by the traveler peer researchers. And we are planning to use videos, case example, brainstorming to spark the conversation, to trigger conversation. And we want this to be, as interactive as possible. And in collaboration with the traveler peer researchers, we can also, discuss about what are the best methods to engage with members of the community, what are the best methodologies, to capture the ideas of travelers. And this workshop will last between 2 and 3 hours. So they're a bit longer than just normal focus group, because the width of the topic that we are exploring is quite wide. And so we would like to conduct this study in 8 different locations nationwide. We haven't decided yet where, so this needs to be decided in collaboration with the members of the steering group. And approximately, we're thinking to engage with 160 travelers participating in the workshop. And also, an important feature of this study is that we would like to have a 2-stages approach in data collection. So on the first stage, we want to run the workshop and to collect the data. And once we have analyzed the data and we have identified the findings, then we want to go back to the same groups, or to some of the groups, probably not everyone, but to some groups, for validation. So we would like to ask to the same groups, do you agree on these findings? Do you think this is reflecting your ideas about mental well-being and how we can promote mental well-being? And so travelers will have the opportunity to either corroborate, the findings and validate the findings, or perhaps, criticize them. And so they will have the opportunity to change, these findings, and therefore this, will create, a strong ownership by travelers. The budget for this work is just shy of 40,000 euro, and this will allow the employment of a part-time researcher, a few part-time traveler peer researchers, And also there is a budget for the data collection cost, for travels. And this budget also is, allocated for a period of 12 months. So it's a 12 months project. So we are just at the beginning of the process. In fact, this is the time frame. So as you can see, we are, in January 2022. So we are in the process of contacting travel organizations just to create awareness about this study and to create interest in this. And we would like to hear from as much travelers as possible. So we are contacting traveler groups, and this process will also help to identify the sample. So the research participants who will be joining these workshops. The first step also in the next few weeks, where we are meeting with the research steering group, we are going to be deciding, how to hire the peer researcher, where this peer researcher should be based, and then once they are hired, they need to be trained on how to handle the data collection, how to manage the workshops, and they will receive the support, the technical support from the Health Promotion Research Center in NUIG, but also the mentoring support of the HEC Mental Health Service Coordinator for Travelers, who can support the peer researcher during the data collection in the organization of the workshop. So it's a collaborative approach that we want to put in place, and then we want to pilot this, the first pilot of the workshop around April, and then the actual data collection should be happening between May and July. And then we believe that by the end of the year, or at the beginning of next year, this process should be finished, and we should have a report written on this study. So we feel that there is huge potential impact from this process, and we could potentially shape the Connecting for Life strategies in the future. But also there is, as you probably aware, there is a mental health promotion strategy being developed by the HSC in the Department of Health. So the finding from this study can also inform the strategies included in that strategic framework, and also can inform national, regional, and community actions all over Ireland in relation to travelers' mental well-being and suicide prevention, and also can outline the core issues the mainstream mental health services need to consider to meet the needs of travelers in suicide prevention, but also in mental health promotion, in treatment. So we want to capture the main changes and the main factors that should be put in place in order to improve the mental health services to meet the needs of this community that, as you all know, is affected disproportionately by mental health problems and suicide. So this is, a huge potential impact. And this is the end of my presentation. And these are the names, as I outlined earlier, of the applicants, Professor Margaret Barry and the co-applicants as the 7 mental health service coordinators and Sandra McDonough from Offaly Traveller Movement. If you want more information, you can also write me an email on this email here below. And I now open the floor for questions. We want to hear from you and what you think about this, and what is your reaction to this idea that we are proposing, and would you be interested in collaborating in this project? And we want to hear from travelers, from HSC staff, and what you think about this. Thank you.